I've personally interviewed over 1,000 virtual assistants. And if your last virtual assistant didn't work out, I can almost guarantee it's your fault. Now, before you come for me, I'm Carla Singson of Proximity Outsourcing. I've been in this business for over 7 years. It started with my career in marketing, and I would go to these international conferences and people would ask me, hey Carla, can you help me find a virtual assistant? You're Filipina, right? So this was around the time when hiring from the Philippines and hiring customer support agents and virtual assistants from the Philippines was really super famous. So of course, over the years, we've grown so much. We've made multiple 7 figures, and we've served over 500 companies, clients of different company sizes, from solopreneurs to 8-figure companies to companies that have exited to these big multinational companies. We've served them all, and I've learned so much. And let me share all the nitty-gritty and all the behind-the-scenes secrets about hiring virtual assistants and possibly the main reasons why your last hire didn't work out. And it's typically not for the reason that you initially thought it was, but I'll definitely pull back the curtain and tell you the truth. So listen up. So the first point is sometimes CVs or resumes are some of the worst predictors of the performance of your virtual assistant. Now, I understand in recruitment that this matters a lot. Of course, it is a representation of their skills, their experience. It is a representation of how they're trying to impress you as an applicant. But then I learned that a lot of the best resumes, meaning the resumes that are super polished, super well designed, people with experience of like 5 years, 10 years, people who have worked for really big names, like some of our virtual assistants have worked for Airbnb or maybe even P&G. So these are all just really, really shiny objects. And yes, obviously they have a lot of merit to them, but it doesn't automatically follow that someone with these types of markers, I would say, will ultimately become the best candidate, right? So I'm going to share a little more advice on what really makes someone shine in the interview process. And that would be my advice. Don't look or don't base on the resume alone, or don't give it a lot of points. Give more points in interviewing, and don't be afraid to really ask difficult questions, because you are making a really big decision in hiring someone for your small business. And so more importantly, if you're hiring an executive assistant or a chief of staff or someone specifically that will have a lot of face time with you, then the decision is really, really precious. You know, you want to guard your time, you want to guard your mood, and so they have to really be a good candidate. So yeah, resumes are not really a direct correlation of their performance or whether they are really a good candidate. But yes, it does play to the merit of them being possibly a very good candidate. So use the resume as a guide on what questions you're going to ask during the interview. And you can do this all on your own. Definitely, you can even ask AI and help you out with developing certain questions. But then again, you really don't know what's going to happen during that interview. You know, you might need to have some follow-up questions. And so this skill is very different. Recruitment is a different animal. And I understand if a lot of entrepreneurs are not really experts in this. And to be honest, this is why companies like us exist, right? And so yes, require the resume. Yes, require the cover letter, but don't make it your ultimate Bible. And I'm going to piggyback on that idea actually about entrepreneurs not having recruitment as their main skill. And this is something that a lot of business owners might not want to hear. That a lot of failed hires for virtual assistants is mostly because of a business owner's arrogance. So first of all, if you're trying to do this all by yourself, you're already taking a very big risk. This is not your expertise. This is not what you do all day. This is not probably the best time. This is probably not the best thing that you could be doing right now. And if you have literally zero help in doing this, you might fail simply because you don't know what you're doing. Now, I understand AI might give you a lot of advice. AI might give you some questions. And yes, that does help. But the mindset of a lot of entrepreneurs thinking, you know what, I built this company and I know exactly the person that I need. So let me tell you a very, very recurring situation that happens in my company and something that my sales team would share with me. And it is when someone comes to us and they say, hey, I need a virtual assistant. And then after they talk to this lead or this prospect, it actually ends up that they need a graphic designer or a funnel builder or a project manager. And so they don't actually need a virtual assistant, but they need someone that's more specialized, and they need someone that has their own lane. This is another thing. If you already fail in naming the role, it's going to be very likely that you're going to fail in the other parts of this recruitment process. So don't be scared to ask for help. Hire a recruiter or hire a company like ours at Proximity Outsourcing to help out with this hiring procedure. So whether you end up with a recruiter or an outsourcing company, or even some solid advice from your cousin who's maybe a recruiter, you don't want to pay money, definitely get help. Try not to do this all on your own, because that also increases your probability of failing simply because, and logically, because you're just not an expert at this. You haven't spent years and years in recruiting for 40 hours a week and having a whole team that does this, just like we do at Proximity Outsourcing. So ask for help. My number 3 point would be about asking questions and really finding out your best guess on how this person will perform when they're actually in the job. So this is largely an interviewing skill. And the best way to ask these questions is to ask situational questions. So for example, you're hiring a sales manager. A good question would be, hey, if I'm a salesperson and I work under you and my numbers are low, my conversions are bad, what are you going to tell me? Can we role play? How are you going to manage that situation? Or if you're interviewing a project manager, tell them, hey, tell me about a time when you were given a project and you were given a deadline and then you realized too late that you didn't have access to the assets, but also admittedly, you waited a little bit before accessing them. So even just knowing that you didn't have access, you learned that too late. So you were already like super late. This is obviously a mistake. This is a mishap. How are you going to tell your boss about it? And how are you going to manage the situation? And also as a project manager, you probably have people working under you also that are supposed to help you deliver this project. What are you going to tell them? How are you going to face them? So questions like this really bring out their problem solving skills, their real experience. And so really lean into and like listen to how they tell this story, because a lot of the good hires and bad hires really come out of this situation. Don't be scared to spend time in this. Like typical interviews would last between 40 minutes to 1.5 hours. And honestly, you can even do more depending on your interviewing style. But the more skilled you are, of course, the shorter time you will need. And if you've already sent like pre-qualifying questions, and then that also helps, right? And you have a lot of non-negotiables with your job description, then that will also help filter, and it will give you a better and a more efficient time during interviewing. So at this time, I want to say another like side advice. Allow yourself to be surprised and be fascinated. Like I said, there's a lot of good hires and bad hires and unexpected situations that come out of this. And so let me tell you a story. One of my best hires ever in my whole life, I would say, is an HR director. Our HR director, actually, her name is Fran. And I remember the time that I talked to her for the first time. This was years ago. And she was actually the HR person of an in-person, like a physical business, Korean English school. So this is an English school that teaches Koreans how to speak English. And that had nothing to do with like outsourcing or staffing or even remote work. But as I talked to her, I was really impressed by her problem solving and her empathy towards people. I really felt it. I had her like tell some stories, and it really stood out that she would do a great job. So I think that was like 4 years ago. And of course, she started as a recruiter, as a junior recruiter, and then senior recruiter, and then now she's the head of HR in my company. So allow yourself to be surprised, right? So that's definitely one of the things that I want you to remember. And that is also something, giving space for that and allowing that to happen. That is something that I've learned from interviewing over 1,000 virtual assistants. And at that point, when I'm interviewing someone, it's almost like a clean slate, right? So it's really related to what I said earlier about don't let a resume like impress you too much, or don't let it make all the decisions in hiring someone for your company. And so the next thing I want to share is what top performers actually reveal. So this is not just one time during the interview. This could also come out during maybe your back and forths, or maybe from the questions that they ask you, but definitely look out for this. And the most important thing is when they show you how they think, right? So when they answer those interview questions, it's going to show how they think. So remind yourself to ask more questions that really lead to them showing you that. What questions do they ask you? Encourage them to ask you questions. Are they smart questions? Because that's definitely a factor as well. Or what if you throw them a curveball question, like a shocking question, something that they didn't expect you to ask? Or maybe you want to do something different and you want to spend 70% of the time asking questions about their life at home or their hobbies. That's also a really good interviewing style, because it really helps in finding out what type of person they are. So that's, that's going to show how they think, and help them like think out loud, because it's really going to show signs. And then lastly, another thing that I want to share in this topic is that one of the actual most important factors, if this will become a successful hire, is where they are in their life right now. A lot of people actually miss out on this. I would like to encourage you to ask questions about their situation at home, their age. Do they have kids? Do they not have kids? Are they the type who can stay on a long-term commitment? And what does the next 1 year, 3 year, or 5 year plan look for them? Encourage them to tell the truth about their dreams. And yes, there might be space in the situation that they might like lie and fib just to get the job. But this is really a mix of like making them feel the emotional safety of telling you the truth. And I would also suggest that it would help if you tell them, hey, I really want to get to know you more as a person, because when we start working together, we're going to spend a lot of time together. And I want to make sure that this is a really good fit for your skill. And not just that you're going to have a great time in my business. Now, if we make things up, and if you don't tell me the truth, then I cannot help you. And even if you get this job, you might still end up frustrated about it. And another thing that I want to share is, even if you might not be a good fit for this job, there might be other opportunities for you in my company or in my friend's company. I can refer you. So encourage them to tell you about their life, about their plans, about their dreams, about what their ideal career is. Like this morning, I interviewed someone who had about 5 to 8 years of experience in customer success, and he also had 5 to 8 years of experience in sales management. And so I asked him point blank, hey, you have like really kind of equal time here in customer success and in sales. Which job do you like more? I want to know, and please tell me the truth, because I want to match you with an opportunity that really goes with your skills and your experience. I want you to have a great time in my business, and I want to be able to know how I can help you the most. I know that a lot of people just want to get a job. Like obviously they have financial issues. Having a job just will provide them security. But you encouraging them to be open and honest, and you telling them that they actually don't lose an opportunity by telling you the truth, and that they can still kind of like gain brownie points with you, and maybe a bigger opportunity could even like open for them in the future. That would be very, very good encouragement for them. And very, very likely they will just tell you the truth, because they also want to help themselves. And of course, the last thing I want to share from my experience hiring 1,000 virtual assistants is that I want to encourage you to do a little bit of a post-mortem report every time you do a hire, whether it turned out well, whether it did not turn out well. This is like an athlete looking at their game tapes, and maybe 90 days down the road or 30 days down the road after you onboarded this person, if you ended up hiring them or whether you ended up not hiring them, still review your tapes, look at the data, see how you can improve yourself, and always come with the mindset that you may not be perfect at this, but you can always learn from your past experience. So it's always better if you write this down or record this somewhere. And maybe a good prompt would be list down some of the bad hires that you've done in the past and list down the things that you can improve on. Because let me tell you, from hiring 1,000 virtual assistants, it was really hard not to kind of like kick myself whenever, or like act frustrated on my 10th, 20th, or 30th failure, right? And the funny thing is, you might not even realize your failure until 90 or even like 6 months down the road, but you learn and you learn and you get better and you get better, right? So that's what I had in mind. So when I noticed that my outsourcing company was starting to grow faster, before it was just me and my one chief of staff, now we have like probably 100 people. It's a big difference. And one of the reasons why we got there is because we kept improving, and we didn't dwell on like blaming ourselves for a bad hire, and we kept improving. Now, of course, I understand for a lot of you, this could still sound very, very daunting and intimidating. And so just leave it to us and leave it to the experts. I will leave a link in the notes and in the description, and you can book a call with us. We want to help you grow your business through outsourcing, and we want to help you find great marketing and management talent, or even just your first virtual assistant. I got you.